this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a necklace and earring set with the newest treasure bags, flowers and shells, and we have two collections, the sophisticated collection and the demure collection. And I will be making this one on camera with you, and this one I made afterwards just to make sure that you could see what it looked like in both collections. I will show you exactly what I used for both bags or for both necklace sets. I want to get you a little closer and show you what this looks like. Let's see, let's arrange this one so you can see what it looks like close up. These are really, really pretty. They look really nice on the neck. Kind of strange laying on the bead mat, but they look really nice on the neck. And I'll get you in and let you see what that looks like. It's just really cute. And then we'll look at the gray one because you don't get to see that one much during this tutorial because I make the other one during the tutorial. So this is what this one looks like. And I think they just really turn out cute. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make these necklaces, and we will get started. Okay, for this project today, we're going to be making a necklace with the newest treasure bag, the Flowers and Shells collection, and I am going to be showing you with the demure collection, but I'm going to show you what we're going to use in both collections, and I will make a piece from both collections so you can see what they look like. So what we're going to be using today are, you have in your bag these three little shell pendants with the faux pearl in the middle. I have a bunch of these on my website too, in packages of 3 like this. So if you want some more so you can make a matching pair of earrings, you can come get some. So I'll probably throw together a pair of earrings. So I'm going to use the 3 that came in the treasure bag, and then probably 2 for a pair of earrings. So I'll also add some ear wires to this. However, what we're going to be using from the bags also are the shell beads. So these are the oval freshwater shell beads. You have them in gray in the sophisticated bag and this peachy creamy color in the demure bag. I have a problem with that word. And so we're going to be using all of those for this project. And then in your demure bag, you have some 8/0 seed beads. You'll be using those 8/0 seed beads with your to make your necklace with. Now, you can use in the sophisticated bag the gray beads that came, but because these pearls are white, I've decided to use Navajo white 8/0 Tohos, and I'm just using those to space with. Of course, you can use your gray ones also. It doesn't truly matter. I just thought I wanted to bring out some of the white because of the white and the pearls. Then I'm going to be using some 15/0 seed beads also for spacers, and we will need some wire. So this is 16 gauge wire. We're going to be making some bail hangers for the pendants. So you'll only need about 3 inches of 16 gauge wire. You could use a smaller gauge if you'd like and hammer it. As long as it's pretty stiff and it will hold as a bail, then you can use it and do the same process I'm doing. It'll just be a different gauge. I again am using 16 gauge wire elements in the gold color. You'll need some size 2 crimp tubes, and you'll need about 4 of them for your necklace, and then I'm using Beadalon size 2 in the golden color. Then you'll need 2 clamshell tips like this, and I have some of these on the website if you want some. Most people have these in their stash, so you're going to need 2 in the gold color, and then 2 about 4 to 5 excuse me, 4 to 5 millimeter jump rings, and that will be to put our clasping on. And I'm going to use one of the toggle clasps that are in the bag. You can use any clasping you would like. This is a techniques video, so you do not have to have the beads I have. You can do this with any size or shape of beads that you want. So, and I'll just show you how to how to do it with different types of beads. So then we're going to be using some 49 strand bead stringing wire, and this is Satin Gold, and the diameter I'm going to show you, because this is a fine diameter. It's 0.018 inch or 0.46 millimeter. You want something around that range, something on the finer side, because we're going to be doubling these wires in places and we want them to both slide through the beads. So this is the one I'm using, and you can get this on Amazon or go to the Beadalon store on Amazon. You can go to any of your bigger bead supply stores and they should have this. So that's what we're going to be using, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is cut 3 equal pieces 1 inch long of your 16 gauge wire. Now you can use an 18 or 20 gauge also. 18 you may not have to hammer it, but 20 you'll probably have to lightly hammer it to work hard in it a little bit. But with the 16 gauge, it's stiff enough that you do not have to hammer it. And it's a little bit harder to handle, but it works really well. So once you've cut 3 pieces, make sure that they are flush cut on both sides. So just very lightly, don't take a lot of the wire away, but very lightly make sure that both sides are nice and flush cut. Flush cut it with the flat portion of the wire, or the flat portion of the plier towards your wire, and that will blunt cut the end. And then you're going to need a flat nose plier, a chain nose plier, and a round nose plier. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up this little piece of wire, and at the very end of it we're going to place our round nose plier, making sure that the end is flush with the plier. And I've gone about not quite the middle of my plier, just a little ways down, so that I get a decent size loop. So right about here on my plier. You may have to test it on yours. And then I'm just going to roll as far as I can. So this is what I've done. I've just rolled it. I'm going to take this out, and then I'm just going to turn my plier over and continue rolling until I have a loop that is towards one side and it's pretty close to closed. And then I can, of course, grab my flat nose plier and just kind of close it by lifting it and moving it towards the inside of the wire like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I'm going to turn it the opposite direction. So I'm going to hold on to it because this wire is hard and thick. I'm going to hold on to that loop I've already made with my flat nose pliers, and then I'm going to begin to turn another loop as far as I can and just continue to turn it as far as I can. So this is what I've got, is like a little infinity shape or figure 8 like this. And then I can straighten it out if I have bent it up a little bit. Then I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and my chain nose pliers, hold on to it, and I'm just going to make sure that I can close it pretty tightly on both sides, the loops, like this. And then I'll just flatten it again, make sure that it's nice and flat. And this is what I have. Just like that. Now, you're going to do that with all 3 pieces of your wire. And then when we have done that, we're going to open one side. So I'm going to open the biggest side, because one loop is usually a little bit bigger than the other. I'm just going to grab my flat nose pliers and my chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to raise this side of the loop. Then I'm going to drop my little shell pendant onto it, and I'm going to grab it again and close it. Just twisting it like this. Now, what I have is a nice little bail wire to string onto my wire so that my pendant is now in the correct position. We could just put a jump ring on there, but this actually helps make your pendant hang a little bit better, especially for the type of stringing we're going to be doing. So you're going to do that with all 3 of your pendants. Go ahead and do that, and we will be back. Okay, so I have made all 3 of my little bail connections, and you can see that's what they look like on my wire. So I have purposely chosen the smallest loop that I made for the top here to string through the wire. Now, they are pretty close to the same size, but always one is just a little bit smaller. So, you know, just choose that. It's not critical, but it works better when we string this on. So now what I have done is I have cut about 22 inches of wire twice. So I have 2 pieces that are 22 inches long of my 49 strand beading wire, my Beadalon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab an 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to put it on both wires. So just slide both wires through that 8/0, have them flush together, and then just bring it down to the center somewhere. We'll center it better in a minute, but just bring it down to the center of your wire. Geez, my speech is just not here today. Then we're going to grab one of our bails that we've just made, and again, make sure you have it tightly closed. If it is not tightly closed, grab a hold of it with a pair of pliers, grab a hold of the other side with your pliers, even while your bail is on it. Just lift it up like you would open a jump ring, and then twist it back and push it towards the wire that goes through the middle. So just close it the best you possibly can. And then we are going to slide it through, or the wire through it, like this, and bring it down to that 8/0 seed bead. Now you want to make sure your loops aren't so big that the 8/0 won't stop it from traveling. So you want to make sure that the 8/0 doesn't fall through your loop. If it does, then you need to make another bail to make sure that this will hold stable. Then I'm going to pick up another 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to put both wires through it and bring it down. Then I'm just going to put both of these ends of my beading wire together, and I'm going to make them flush here, and then just pull this to the center of the wire like this. And it's going to move around, but we're somewhat centered now, so that will help us stay with the same amount of wire on either side as we string and adjust. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to open my shell beads and get them ready, and we're just going to string 8/0s, 15/0s, and shell beads on here. Now I'm going to align my wires so that I can see. I'm going to have them, if they're crossed inside, it's okay, but if you can get them laying parallel, that's probably better. Okay, so we want them laying next to each other so you can tell which wire is which. We're going to have one wire towards the inside like this, so I'm making sure that it's the same wire running through and then the same wire here, not crossed. It's not absolutely critical, but it will help your necklace lay better, so I would say to do that. Then we're going to pick up 15/0 seed beads, which is the hardest part. Pick up 3 15/0 seed beads onto your wire on the top one, and then 3 on the bottom one. Do the same thing on the other side. See, it's the hardest part because they're so tiny, and some of them don't want to go on the wire well, so they will fit. It's just, especially if you're using toe hose, make sure you're using toe hose because they have a little bit bigger hole. And things are going to shuffle around, and we will make sure that we have the appropriate wire in the appropriate place when we start our next, when we put the beads on. So I'm going to cut the end of this and see if that helps. Pick up these 15 O's. I swear this is the hardest part of the whole design, is picking up the beads, and that's just crazy. So with this design, you can use any beads you want. We're going to use the oval shell beads, but you can use any beads you want. Just start with the 15 O's so it spaces it away from your center and allows your beads to lay nicely next to each other. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to get you in so you can see it. And then we're going to do a series of beads on one strand and a series on the upper strand. So we'll do the lower strand and the upper strand. The upper strand will have one less set of beads than the lower strand, and that's what will make the ruffled effect. If you're using something other than I'm using, just go like 2 less if you're using a 6mm round than you do on the bottom, and you can kind of gauge it with any beads you're using. You'll just do a couple less so that you can get the ruffled effect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead on the bottom here and a 15/0, and make sure that my strands are somewhat straight here. So this is actually the top, and it doesn't matter because I'm going to put a 15/0, or I'm going to put an 8/0 and a 15/0 on both. So now I have an 8/0 and a 15/0. Then I am going to pick up, there we go, now I know which is which. So I'm going to start with one strand just so I know which one it is, and that's going to be the top strand. So I'm going to pick up my my shell bead, and I'm going to drop it down. And then I'm going to pick up a 15/0 and an 8/0, 15/0, 8/0, 15/0, and I will pick up another shell bead. And I will do 3 sets like this. So I'll start with my 8/0, 15/0 shell, 15/0, 8/0, 15/0 shell, and I will do 3 complete sets. So I've got a 15/0, 8/0, 15/0, and then shell. Oh, come on, 15/0. There we go. And then shell. I'm going to back off just a little. Okay. And then I am going to do one more set of 15/0, 8/0, 15/0. And I'm actually on this very last one going to put 3 15/0s. Just like that. And then on this bottom one, because once you get it established, then when you do the other side, you can make sure that they're not crossed, and you'll know which strand is which. It's easier once you establish some beads on it. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do 4 sets. So I'm going to pick up a shell bead, and then a 15/0, 8/0 shell bead. And some of these shells are a little bit smaller than others, so try to mix them nicely so you still have the right measurement for things. So if you use all big instead of kind of mixing the little bit smaller ones in, you're not going to have quite the same symmetry as you need on both sides. So I'm just kind of aware of what I'm using here. Okay, so now I have my 80, 15-0, 80, 15-0, and then shell bead, and then again 15-0, 80, 15-0, come here. All right, and then one more shell bead, and 15-0, come here. Oh, I'm telling you, these 15-0s are going to be the death of me. There we go, 15-0, 80, 15-0. Now that I have 4, I'm actually going to put 2 more 15-0s on. So you want to make sure that at the end of your series, you have 3 15-0s. I'm going to put my wires together on the end here again. And I'm going to center this and then do the other side. So just put this all together so we can establish a center pretty well now once we get our beads on. Oh my goodness, come here wires, jeez Louise. Okay. So I can just pull this all down like this. And now I'm pretty well centered. Then I am going to, those are laying pretty nicely. And even though they may cross a little bit on the inside, just make sure that it's laying really nicely so you can distinguish the top wire from the bottom wire, just like this. Then we're going to do our series again on the top. So we need an 80, 15-0, 80, and we're going to go ahead and just string this exactly like we did on the other side. And we'll be back, so you don't have to watch me struggle with these little 15-0s and stuff. We're going to do the exact same sequence on both wires. Okay, so now you can see I have strung both sides and put my ends together and centered it again so that I have a nice centering to start with as I cinch these together and do my next section. So what I have found is that my beads are laying better actually crossed, the strands crossed inside these bottom beads. However you can get them to lay better, just make sure that they lay very nicely like this before you do the next section. So my strands are actually crossed inside this portion here. And then we're going to pick up the ends, push them together. I have my 3 15-0 seed beads here. I'm going to pick up an 80, and I am going to slide it down on both wires here so that I can cinch this side together. So I will pick up an 80 with both wires, slide it down, then I will pick up an 80 on this side with both wires, cinch it down, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my inside wire and just pull it a little bit so that I can actually kind of guide all of my beads tightly to the center, and that will make my little ruffle. Now it's not going to stay perfect yet, but you can see how I'm bringing this together. This one being shorter than this one will create a ruffle effect. Now I'm going to grab my pendant and I am going to put it through the top of our little bail we created and slide it down. Then I'm going to grab another 8/0 seed bead and put my two pieces together and slide this down. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'll grab my bail, put this through the loop. Let me back off a little so you can actually see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to grab another 8/0, put it through both of these. And then slide everything together. And I will put my back wires together again and see if I can center somewhat. At this point you get kind of stuck where you're centered, so we might be able to adjust it somewhat. Let's see, to make sure. Yeah, so I have basically the same amount of wire on both sides. I straighten out the bottom here so it looks good. Distinguish your inside and your outside strands, and then do the exact same sequence. So we're going to start with 3 15/0 seed beads. I'm going to do the outside here, and I'm going to do 3 15/0s, and then I am going to put on an 8/0 and then a 15/0, and I'm going to put on my pearl or shell bead. So I'm going to do the exact same sequence on the outside. I'm going to do this 4 times, and then on the inside strand I'll do it 3 times, and you're going to repeat exactly what you did here. So you can just look at these strands and just make sure you keep your outside to the outside, your inside to the inside, so that it will lay nicely when you have finished your beading. And go ahead and bead on both sides the exact same sequence on these portions here, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now you can see that I have repeated the pattern from here up here on both strands, and now I'm just going to put the ends together and pick up an 8/0 and slide it down on both strands. On this side, and just kind of cinch everything down. We'll pull it all together in just a minute, but we want it to just kind of form our little lace here, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And your strands may not be exactly equal anymore, just put them together flush on the ends regardless, and push this through. And you want to make sure at this point that you're somewhat centered and you have about the same amount of thread or wire left over so that you can do the back of the necklace. So you want to recenter several times, making sure that everything is going to be in the middle, and you'll have enough to make the back. So this is what this looks like, and I'm just going to slide this side all together by pushing on my 8/0 and slide this side together. I'm going to get a little bead stopper. I'm going to push this side to the center, make sure there's no slack, and I'm going to put a bead stopper on this side. And then I'm going to push this side together, making sure that there's no slack. All the beads need to be held together with this tension that we're going to create here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pick up a crimp tube. So I'm going to get a size 2 crimp tube out, and we're going to crimp this all into place, and then we will do the back of the necklace. So I'm going to put these back together again and slide both of the wires through a crimp tube. And slide this down. Make sure it's all tight, and I'm going to get you in closer here so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got this little crimp tube here. I'm pushing everything together so that there's no slack. I've created my little ruffled effect, and then I'm going to grab my crimping tool, and in the second divot, the one closest to the handle, I'm going to use the flat side here and of my tool and just kind of push it up against that 8/0 seed bead gently while pulling on these strands so that I have enough tension to keep the shape I want. Then I'm going to squeeze just like that. Now I can turn it sideways so you can see I have my nice little crinkle in the middle here from crimping. Now I'm going to put it sideways in my crimping tool and squeeze those two little tubes that formed together, just like that. And now we're going to do the other side. So let's pull this all together, and I know I took out two crimp tubes, but do you think I know where I put the other one? Oh no. You know, I do this to myself all day, every day. Let me grab another one. And I'll do the same thing over here. And just get the center of the necklace set, and then we can work on the other side. So you can see I have quite a discrepancy here in my beading wire, but that's okay at this point. I can fix that by, I'm going to cut off one of these wires anyway, so. Okay, so now I've got this all together. I'm going to grab my crimping tool. I'm going to use the flatter side to face it towards my 8/0 seed bead. Put the crimp tube in the second divot, the one closest to the handle, and squeeze tight. And now I have the beginning of my crimp here. I have two little tubes on either side. I'm going to place those in my crimping tool sideways. Let me see if I can do this. And squeeze again. Now, when I arrange everything, everything's going to stay together for me. See? I have my nice little front of my necklace. Now I'm going to find the longest cord on each side. This side is pretty flush, and I'm going to select one that I think is most centered, or the longest one, either way. I'm going to cut off the other one. So I'm going to get as close as I can to the crimp tube, and I am going to place my flush cutter right at the very end of that crimp tube and cut that wire off. So now I have a single wire. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. This one, I have one longer one than the other, so I'm going to keep that longer one. And I'm going to cut off the shorter one. There we go. And now I can work on how I want to do the back. Now originally I was just going to put a little clamshell and then put chain on the back. However, I couldn't find any chain that matched my yellow gold that well. So what I've decided to do is I have 5 of these beads left. So I'm going to use 4 of them. And I'm going to do the same type of beading here. So I'm going to pick up a 15/0 and then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 and a 15/0 and slide on one of these. And then I'm going to pick up another 15/0, 8/0, 15/0 and put on another shell bead. And I want mine to be about an 18-inch necklace. So what I'm going to do is just work on one side at a time. And now that I have my 2 little shells here, I don't have any others. These have to be reserved for the other side. I'm just going to pick up a series of 15/0, 8/0, 15/0, and make the back of my necklace until I have the length I want. I want mine to be 18 inches so I can come back and tell you basically how many I have done. You can make it a little longer or a little shorter. It's up to you. We have enough wire here. Let me measure it. We should have enough wire to make a full 18, maybe 19-inch necklace. So let me measure what we've got. So yeah, we've got about 20 inches of wire. If I show you all the way out here, we've got about 20 inches of wire. So we can continue working and make whatever length you want. If you go, you have to leave yourself at least 1.5 inches to do your ending. We're going to use clamshell, so we really don't even need that much. So you can make a 20-inch necklace if you want to, or real close to it with your clasping measurement involved in that. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to keep beading my 15/0, 8/0, 15/0, 8/0 until I get to the point to where I have 18 inches. Then I'll put on my clamshell and my clasping, and I'll end up with about a 19-inch necklace. So I'm going to continue doing this. Then I will do exactly the same thing on this side. Come back, show you what I've got, and then we will put our clasping on. So just continue beading the back of your necklace till you get the length that you desire. Okay, so I have put on 23 8/0 seed beads with 15/0s in between. And I'm measuring from my very center piece of my necklace all the way to this side, and it is at 9 inches. So I know if I have 9 inches on this side, do the other side exactly the same way, I'm going to have an 18-inch necklace. So that's how you can measure. If you want a 20-inch, you're going to go to the 10, and so on. So I have put on my 23 8/0s, and then I'm going to grab a clamshell, and from the bottom of the clamshell, I'm going to slide my wire in, and I have decided to use a size 1 crimp tube in this. You can use a size 2 and squeeze it too, but I'm going to use a size 1 round because they fit inside clamshells a little bit better. So I'm going to grab one of these little size 1 crimp tubes, and this is a Beadalon, and so it's actually a crimp bead because it's round, and I am going to drop it down inside the clamshell like this, and then I'm going to hold everything so that it's flush, kind of pulling on my wire to make sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to reach in, grab that crimp tube, and then pull on my wire and squeeze that crimp tube the best I possibly can, as tight as I can. Make sure it's nice and secure, and you can drop a little bit of glue in there if you would like to make sure it stays secure. I like to try to go in and squeeze it one more time if I can, just to make sure it's really nice and secure. And then I'm going to cut about 1 millimeter above that crimp tube, cut my wire with my flush cutters that don't seem to want to cut it because I've been cutting 16 gauge wire with it. So anyway, I've cut that down, and now I can just close my clamshell. Make sure that you line up the little ring on the outside very well, and then squeeze the ring, and then squeeze the belly of the clamshell. And you can adjust it on the sides just to make sure those line up as well as you can get them so that you can slide a jump ring through there. This particular one always likes to kind of slide off and makes it difficult to put a jump ring through, but I just mess with it until I get it pretty well lined up. And there's my end. So now this side is completely done, and I can focus on doing this side the same way. And once I get that done, then we can just slide jump rings on our clasp and put it on. So I am going to go ahead and finish this side exactly the same as this side and come back and we'll put our clasping on and we shall have a beautiful necklace. Okay, so now you can see that I have finished this entire side with my beads, and I went ahead and put my clamshell and crimp bead on the end, and then I used a 5mm jump ring. You can use whatever size you want, and then I dropped on the straight end of my toggle. So all we have to do is the other end, and we'll do that together in case there's someone who's new and needs to know how to do this. So I am just going to get another jump ring because the one I have out is too big. I don't know how I ended up with that one, but we're going to grab a jump ring and about a 5mm jump ring, and then I am going to find the opening, which is right here in the middle. Get you close. And then I am going to just put another plier on the other side and just twist it open. Once you've opened it, then you can drop on your clasp, and then you can put the jump ring right onto the end of the clamshell loop, just like this. And then close the jump ring, just turn it back, and the necklace is finished. Now, with this necklace, you can do this with anything you have. I do have a bunch more of these little pendants on my website, so I'll post a link if you want some of these. And if you get another pack, we can go ahead and make some very simple earrings. So all I did was drop it right on the ear wire. So you can do that, or you could make it a little fancier by using an eye pin and dropping a pearl on it and then looping it and then, you know, putting this on your eye pin. You could do lots of different things, but I'm just grabbing an ear wire. I'm finding which side it opens on, just opening it like I did my jump ring, and then I'm just going to drop my pendant on there and close it. And now I have a set of earrings that match. With this necklace, you can use any beads you would like. You can use any charms or pendants, or just create something to dangle here too. Some little crystals on a head pin or whatever. It is the technique that I'm teaching you, so you can use whatever you'd like. Like I said, I have a bunch of these, so you could do it with pearls. The only difference in doing that with a different type of bead that I have is that you'll just have to figure out exactly how much room you want on the top, how many beads you need, and then make it just a little bit longer on the bottom. The longer you make it, the bigger of a loop you're going to get. So you'll just want to slide a few on a couple of wires, kind of cinch it together and see how your loop looks. And if you like it, then that's how many beads you're going to use of whatever type you choose. So this is a very simple design. I hope you enjoyed it. I will make the other color and I will show it to you in the intro of the video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.